All right, Mo, it's I Pick the Topic Tuesday.
On a Monday.
Yeah, we're traveling tomorrow, so we're going to do it on a Monday.
All right, let's do it.
A lot of things. First up, are the Bengals having second thoughts about Andy?
Story in Yahoo Sports that says that Greg Cosell, who does great work for NFL Films, and we've had him on the show, says that some team officials, and I'm reading here, some team officials say they need to see a lot more from Dalton to be convinced he'll become a great quarterback. Says Cosell, and I quote, "I can tell you that those in the Bengals organization have a few doubts as to what his true upside is, because at the end of the day, while I think Dalton is a good player, I know that he's got some arm strength limitations." This tells us almost nothing new. I think we knew that the Bengals drafted Andy Dalton because of a lot of his intangibles. I think they felt that he could grasp the offense, a very intelligent guy, and a guy with some great physical tools, but he might lack the arm strength. And this year is all about him physically taking his game to another level. I wouldn't be surprised if there's somebody in the Bengals organization, maybe it's somebody higher ranking, maybe it's somebody lower on the food chain, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is somebody in the Bengals organization who has concerns about whether Andy can physically take his game to the next step. This isn't all that big of a deal to me.
All right, Dante Moak to sit out 4 games. Is this a problem?
Maybe not, except for the fact that this team is kind of thin at linebacker. They're old and maybe not all that talented and have a lot of question marks coming into the season, and it's the one area I know they drafted or signed after the draft, Vontaze Burfict, but he's a college free agent, a guy with a lot of questions. They didn't address that in the draft. I kind of think it puts a premium on bringing a guy like Brandon Johnson, who I think can play all 3 linebacker positions, back to the team. They need depth at that position. Dante Moak was supposed to give them depth at linebacker. He might in the final 12 games. Doesn't look like he's going to be in the first 4. And yeah, at a position that they're not all that strong at, I think it's problematic.
All right, we're going to move to baseball.
Okay.
The Reds are at the quarter pole. How are you feeling?
I feel pretty good, and it's a statement about the Reds, who I think have sort of sidestepped a lot of different minefields. 40 games in, 21-19. They haven't hit. Roland got hurt. League hasn't been all that good. Latos has been sort of so-so. And the lineups on a daily basis were yelling and screaming about the closer situation's been unsettled since March, and yet today they're a half game out of first place. Now, that's a statement against the rest of the division as well, but if we've come to accept that the Reds in many respects are what they've been through the first 40 games, I think we have to say the same thing about the Brewers and the Pirates and obviously the Cubs and Astros as well. And look, the Cardinals are suffering injury issues. Lance Berkman, big problem. I like where this team is right now. I think they did a good job sort of getting through that tough road trip. Obviously 4 tough ones with Atlanta. Long way to go. But I think a quarter of the way through the season, if you're like me and you buy that at some point they're going to go on a little bit of a tear, even if they didn't have a good season, they were going to go on a little bit of a tear, I think you got to feel pretty good about where they are right now.
All right, weigh in on the closer situation.
All right, look, I know everybody's talking about Aroldis Chapman. It's simply this for me. If Aroldis Chapman pitches the 9th inning and gets the save, that's fine. I just don't think it makes much sense for Dusty Baker, or for most managers for that matter, to be married to the idea of one guy and one guy only pitching in the 9th inning and only using that guy in the 9th if there's a save situation. I think the idea should be to let the game dictate who's going to pitch when and who's going to face who. Oftentimes this year, to Dusty's credit, that has meant that Aroldis Chapman has gotten the most important outs against the toughest hitters. That happened in New York. It's happened often this season. I think the manager, I think Dusty, and I think all managers should show a little bit more flexibility. If the 8th inning demands that the best guy come in, be open to it. That's happened so far this season. It should continue. If it means Aroldis Chapman comes in with a bases-loaded situation in the 7th inning, fine. If it means he pitches the 9th, that's fine. Let the game and the matchups dictate who pitches when.
Last question.
Okay?
While you were gone, UC booted Octavius Ellis. Too quick?
Some are saying maybe a little bit unfair. I'm gonna put my faith in Whit Babcock, who I like, and Mick Cronin. Look, they have sat down with Octavius Ellis, and I would imagine they've done some due diligence here. I've heard some allege, well, this is done in the name of the brand or the reputation of the program. There might be something to that, but if you have come to the conclusion that a player is not representing your program or that brand in the right way, you have every right to kick them off. They're going to do right by him academically, but if they have come to the conclusion that in the aftermath of the situation at that nightclub, that Octavius Ellis no longer represents what they're looking for, then I have no problem with that. I will trust the judgment and the actions of the athletic director and the coach. All right, we're going to Bristol, Connecticut, so listen Wednesday afternoon. We'll be at the ESPN campus for our afternoon show. Follow on Twitter at Moegger1530, and send me an email anytime, mo@ESPN1530.com.